Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there. Welcome to the program. I see it's July 31st. That's my sister's birthday. Thank God I saw that. I never know what day it is. Make sure to give her a call. So, I'm now officially up on popular culture in that I was hornswoggled, and I don't even know if is that a word? I like it. I was bullied into seeing Barbie, and went with a bunch of women, young and old. Well, I was the oldest, but still a whole bunch of us. And I feel compelled to say something by virtue of the fact that I went and did this thing that so many people. First of all, it is the first time I've been in a movie theater since the pandemic. I mean, that is such a demarcation point of so many experiences. And you realize when I went there and the ticket taker, he said, "My God, I haven't seen you." And I said, "I know, since the pandemic." And on top of that, it was packed. I mean, literally packed, so that there were no seats. Not a seat. People were, even seated in the front row, craning their necks. Absolutely every seat taken. And in that packed theater, I want to note, and I was a little surprised by it, I don't think anyone was wearing a mask. And I thought, whoa! To me, that was the best part of the evening. I guess we're back. Normal. But the movie. If it weren't such a phenomenon, in part because media has decided it is, and critics who seem to mostly like it, if I had just seen this movie cold, I don't know that I would think it was much of anything. Seriously. Knowing the import of it, I cut it a little more slack. There are parts of it to me that are really well done, but it's because I don't know. To me, the message of the movie, I guess the message that got all the right-wingers so flipped out, because it's about, women and how difficult their lives are in our culture, the contradictory messages they get, and the constraints they're put on, and how it is a man's world, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, to me, that is just such old news that it's hardly going to, it's almost like at the end I could say, yeah. And so nothing much has changed. I don't know. I want to say that the best line in the film, if you ask me, is the last line, literally. The last spoken line in the film. So definitely stay till the end. And then the credits are really good. I don't know. I still have to go see Oppenheimer. That's more my kind of movie. I mean, it just is. I'm not The Wall Street Journal said this about it. Oh, no. The Wall Street Journal said that the script is like a grumpier than average women's studies seminar. This is the right wing, and a lot of men don't like it. They think it attacks men, which has a little fun there, no doubt about it. I don't know. And the National Review says, this preachy movie is not aimed at the countless young women who happily grew up playing with Barbie and dreamed of childbearing. I have to tell you, I just want to insert this right here. I never dreamed of childbearing. Oh, the other part of the film, the opening, which is an homage and a wink, more than a wink, to Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, is funny and wonderful. But the young women that I had gone with, these are early 20s, they didn't get it. I mean, they thought the opening was fine, but they didn't understand the illusion. And in parts of the film, I could hear young people laughing while older people were like, and it was interesting. There were, I was curious about the men that were there because they were outnumbered. I think a lot were gay, but then there were husbands, one of whom was seen to fall asleep by, I don't know, 10 minutes in. But yeah, some jerk writing in the National Review says that the film totally does not take into account all of the young girls who dreamed of childbearing, family, homemaking, and romance. And he said instead this was a movie that was aimed at, get this quote, a later vengeful generation, I guess that's me, that resents the toy suggestion of femininity. You betcha, babe, I do. God. So, yeah, at a time when we have to be divided about everything, I can see where, I'm so sick. I'm sick of it all. And to put things in perspective, I love it when you come upon stories like this and things get put in perspective. I give you a woman named Wendy Hansen. You think she's white? Wendy Hansen, who lives in Iowa, and listen to the day she had. She is at work. She gets a text from a neighbor that says, "Your house is on fire." Wendy goes tearing out of her place of employment, jumps on her motorcycle. I didn't quite have Wendy Hansen with a motorcycle, but you love about life, little surprises here and there. People surprise you. Okay, her house is on fire. She runs out of her work. She jumps on her motorcycle. She's going a gazillion miles an hour, and she wipes out. Totals the bike. Thank God doesn't total herself, but she's broken bones. Ambulance called. Taken to the hospital. And while trying to ascertain just how badly beaten up she is, they give her an MRI or a CAT scan, I guess. And damn, the CAT scan showed she had, this bone broken, that bone broken, but it also showed a big tumor on her kidney. The good news is early detection. It was, she's going to be the cancer. It is cancerous, and it's whatever. It's going to be fine. I don't have an update on the house. Bike totaled, but you know, when you think you're having a bad day, like if you just stop at your house is on fire, that's a bad day. But then totaling your motorcycle and almost getting killed, that's while your house is on fire. That sort of adds insult to literal injury. And then it turns out that having your house on fire and getting in a motorcycle crash on the way to the fire and then having to have the CAT scan saved her life, because she never, ever, ever, ever would have known there was a tumor growing on her left kidney. So I'm just saying. Strange. So it was a great day, as it turns out. It's all it's all about perspective. Those pauses are me thinking to myself. And the thought I had is, and I don't know that I even want to get into it, which is why there was a pause, why I didn't. Why is it that when we hear of animals being harmed, that so many of us, and I'm including myself, have a more immediately empathetic response than we would if the same story was about a human? What is that about? I'm sure plenty of things have been written about that, because it ain't just me. You know, and sometimes I think it's because the animal. Cullen, you said you didn't want to get into it, so don't. I don't know. Like, you know, I have new neighbors, and they have a dog. The reason I know they have a dog is because the dog barks in the backyard piteously. You know, there's barks and there's barks. Piteous barks are the hardest barks to take in and live with. It just makes you unhappy. It also annoys the hell out of you, right? And so, and then you get angry, right? Because you think, will you do something about that poor dog? You can't, I get such a rush of emotions. My God, your dog is crying in your backyard. Do you act? And not only that, it's annoying the holy hell out of the neighbors, okay? But I mean, that dog barking mostly just makes me miserable. I mean, I'm unhappy. I was in a foul mood sitting here with him barking, her barking, it barking. I have no idea. And, yeah. But if it were a person, if it was a baby crying, kind of thing, let's see, if there was an abandoned child in the backyard crying, would I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Actually, what got me started was I'm looking at a picture that was taken, aerial photo, of a very unusual event in nature. And it is over 100 whales. And they're all together. They're like in a mass. So it's taken from above, and it just looks like this black mass. Some of them almost look like they're on top of the others, and surrounded by this blue water, and over 100 pilot whales. This is off the coast of Australia. And apparently this is scientists who study whales said, this is not normal. This is, what the heck are they doing? And it didn't look good. And then it became obvious that it was not good. So they huddled together almost an entire day just off the coast. And then they did it. Yeah. Over 100 whales. Mass suicide attempt. They turned and raced to the shore, beaching themselves. Humans who had been alerted to the odd behavior of the day before, the huddled masses of pilot whales yearning to die, tried to rescue. You don't have a lot of time to get a beached whale back into the water. For one thing, once out of the water, their organs can be crushed by their own weight. So they die this awful death of not only sort of a kind of just being suffocated and crushed under their own weight. So people were managed to get about 45 of these whales back into the water, which is amazing. And then, using boats, they herded them back farther and farther and farther out to sea. But later, that afternoon, those 45 turned and made a rush for the beach again. So here's the thing. They don't know what. There's theories. One theory is that the matriarch, I didn't know it was a matriarchy, the matriarch of the community, of the pod, becomes ill and swims into shallow water, and the others follow her, given their tight-knit social bonds. But I mean, this is people making up, who knows, stories. They could have been disoriented by something. Was there some loud noises under the water from some, who knows what, probably some man-made thing, and why did they do that weird day-long huddle before the final suicide, mass suicide? And They say all of this is bizarre. That it's not unusual that whales strand themselves with lots of them doing it at once. But it is really rare to indicate that something's afoot like this, to do this huddle for a day. And again, it's not uncommon. 4 years ago, 470 whales beached themselves in Tasmania. The vast majority died. 470. And then 2 years later, to the day of the mass suicide of the 470, exactly 2 years later, another 230 whales beached themselves pretty much on the same stretch of coast. How bizarre is that? So anyway, obviously they'll do what they can with autopsies, figure out if there was any, but they don't. This is bizarre behavior in some respects. The huddling is the truly bizarre part. But the mass suicide thing, wow. Extraordinary. Anyway, it just breaks my heart. Barbara writes, she had been wondering about this same thing. Why do we care so much about it? And she says this, the natural affection we feel for animals can be compared to the affection we feel for our children. We impulsively care for them and desire to help them because they are unable to help themselves. Our perception of adult humans is that they can help themselves, speak up for their rights, or defend themselves in some way. And here's something else. Why do we care so much about animals? Because animals capture our hearts. They fulfill our need to nurture and protect and provide companionship and love. It is no wonder we are touched when they are hurt or suffering. Even when we don't even know them, we feel empathy for them. Well, yeah, there you have it. I do. My God. So as long as we're on animals, what is a city paper? I'm asking. I'm on your website here. What's going on there at City Paper with the dog stuff? This is the second time in relatively a short period that City Paper's reporters have really dug in to a really important story of what do people name their dogs in Allegheny County. Now, I love stories like this. There's enough horror in the world, right? But I mean, I can't imagine sort of the amount of number crunching and going, the amount of labor that they went through. I mean, there are like 72,000 licensed dogs in Allegheny County, which is where they got they went to the licenses to find the names. And I don't know. It turns out most people with dogs have very little imagination, and I'm one of them. I mean, we name our dogs the same name over and over and over and over and over again. And I have noticed that when I was a child a million years ago, that it was rare that people would name a pet with a human name. You didn't. You did not. And what's so bizarre is that now that's pretty much what we do. We name them human names. And this coincides, of course, with dogs being taken into our homes like members of the family. And so, of course, they have human names now. You know, the number one name is Bella. I don't even know a Bella dog. I know a Bella person. I don't know a Bella dog. Lucy is second, and I even owned a Lucy. Or I lived with a Lucy who was a quadruped and was my animal companion. So here's the top 10, if you're interested. Bella, Lucy, Max, Daisy, Buddy, Bailey, Charlie, Luna, Cooper, and Molly. There they are. And there's hundreds of each of those, hundreds and hundreds. So if you were to go into any park in Allegheny County and yell, Bella, sort of like, it sounded a little like Marlon Brando with Stella, right? Bella! Chances are a dog or two would come running. That's right. Give it a try. I have a caller. I doubt that the caller's on this subject, but come on in if you're there.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Yes, I was just calling about what you said before. You said we have that connection with animals. That's because humans, the animals, nature, the earth, we're all supposed to live in harmony. But some people don't realize that we're all together. We're connected, and they don't realize that, and someday they will. They will understand why we're supposed to live in harmony, and we're supposed to live, you know what I mean? Respect one another. But
oh yeah,
some people just don't get it, and they'll find out someday. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay, see you later.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Bye-bye.
you.
I don't know what's going to get a Mother Nature or a marauding buffalo. Anyway, okay, just a few more things about what the crack crew at City Paper found on Allegheny County dog names, okay? Because it's not talking about, hell. So animals, after you get done with all the people names, which accounts for like almost 75% of all dogs now have people names. When they used to be, Spot and Frisky. That was our dog, Frisky. But you didn't have, whatever. Then people name them after other animals. It's a little odd, but so then this is the biggest category of dog names in Allegheny County after you get through the people names. And it's stuff like Bear. A lot of dogs named Bear. And that makes sense because bears and dogs are, I think, genetically very, 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 very close. Also, Goose. I knew a goose. I mean, a dog named Goose. Moose, Goose, and Raven. And then there's adjectives. Lucky, itchy. All right. And they say there's foods. My God. So somebody named their dog Brussels sprout. Wrong. Because seriously, you're going to, again, the thing about a dog name is you have to be willing to shout it at the top of your lungs in a state of high anxiety. Brussels sprout! You wouldn't want to do that, I don't think. Potato banana! Personally, I might let the dog just run into traffic. I would think I just can't. I can't say Chardonnay. Amelia Earhart. God. No, you just can't. I don't know. Okay, so there it is. I didn't even get some of this stuff. How people name names. Anyway, so there you have it. There you have it. I don't know what do you got there. There you have it. I'm done with it. But at least it allowed us to. Barbara wrote me today and said she knows she sends me a lot of Debbie Downer stuff, and yes, you do. But it's often very helpful stuff, and I'm very appreciative. And she says she's appreciative of my Downer stuff too, because we got to know. You know, the thing about, so this has to do with, believe it or not, in a headline, Sam Alito, that would be Justice of the Supreme Court, and Barbie. And this is why I sort of, don't like fads, cultural fads. Things get silly. In order to capture, hold on to this, juggernaut. Having been in media, I understand this. You find a new angle, a wrinkle here, and you grab on any way you can stick Barbie in. And I know I'm going to do something on the Supreme Court, but I'm going to hook people with Barbie. Even Tom Hartman. And Tom said this, that Alito wrote in the Wall Street Journal apparently last week, this: no provision in the Constitution gives Congress the authority to regulate the Supreme Court and the grifters in the black robes. Oh, he didn't say that. Anyway, Hartman goes on to say, I beg to differ. The Constitution actually requires Congress to regulate the damn Supreme Court. He says, I'll get to that, but first the important stuff. Barbie! See? Tom. He says, Louise and I, take it, wife, went to see the new Barbie movie. Sitting in the theater, we both nearly choked on our popcorn when in the first few minutes of the movie, one of the Barbies says, in Barbie land, corporations are not people, and money is not considered protected free speech. See, this is why the right wing hates this movie. I have to say that in Barbie land, all the justices are women. The women run everything. It is exactly the flip of the real world, at least, the way it totally used to be. But I think one of the messages is that when all the Barbies are running everything, they treat the Kens, who are definitely not the people in power, they're just and the Kens. They treat the Kens with indifference. Barbie is not particularly nice to Ken. She says things like, go away. She doesn't take Ken's feelings into account. And I'm thinking, so it doesn't matter who's got the power, men or women. People in power And power corrupts. It corrupts your soul. And by the end of the movie, I think there is some resolution and understanding of that, but I don't know. Anyway, so there's Tom Hartman making use of Barbie. Oh, God almighty. Okay. I just lost my... Now, I came upon this quote today, and boy, it hit me. Oh, did it hit me. And it made me contemplative, and it made me introspective, and it made me vow to do better. Here's the quote, because I think it's, wow, right on the money. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. I think that's huge. I think that's just huge. I'm definitely in that most people group. Not all the time. Not all the time. But I think our culture totally is. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. We're not even hearing. We're not here. We're ahead of them, right? You're ahead of them on here. You're right. You're sort of taking notes and thinking, here's how I'm going to come back with that, and I'm going to, and I can add on to that. It doesn't even have to be contentious. It's, well, that's something that could happen to me. And it's all, rather than just opening yourself and actually listening. I mean, I've always been aware that hearing is not the same as listening. You can hear a lot of stuff and it doesn't penetrate at all. Listening requires some action on your part, some energy expenditure, right? But back in the day, I would have made a little needlepoint thing of it, right? And put a frame around it, because I really want to remember this. And it will make me a nicer person. Wouldn't it? Okay, I'm giving it to you one more time. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. God, I love that. Okay. That's it. That's my new fave. Did I just say fave? Somebody shoot me. No. Okay. I want to. Do I want to do this? Oh, why not? I want to. There's a quote from a Trump voter that's in the New York Times today. That coming. Okay, here's what I want to say to you. It's a big challenge. Given what I just shared with you, this amazing quote about listening to understand rather than intending to reply, I dare you to listen to this. Is this guy identified? Yes, he is. Unbelievable. All right. David Green, a retail manager in Somersworth, New Hampshire, age 69. Just so you know who's talking here. Here's what he said to a reporter about Trump. He might say mean things and make all the men cry because all the men are wearing their wives' underpants and you can't be a man anymore. You got to be a little sissy and cry about everything. But at the end of the day, you want results. Donald Trump's my guy. He's proved it on a national level. Okay. Any of you able to listen to that with the intent to understand? Did you? Because if you did, whoa. Oh, God in heaven. Oh. That is a result, by the way, of this news that Donald Trump is so far ahead of any of the other Republicans, and including, there's a whole bunch of them, right? None of them, even if you took all of them, and ran all of them against Trump, he'd still win. They can't even amongst themselves come close to the support he has. So, after Trump, he owns him. He friggin' owns him. Mind-boggling. I have a call. Hello.
Lynn, good morning.
Good morning.
Indeed, that is mind-boggling. But what I called to say was, when you are conducting marital therapy, one of the very basic exercises that you have couples do is you sit them face to face, kind of knee to knee, opposite one another, and you give each person 2 minutes to make a statement about whatever it is they want to make a statement about, a concern, a problem, or something that happened to them during the day. And the assignment to the person listening is they cannot say anything. They must maintain eye contact with their partner for those 2 minutes. And then at the end of the 2 minutes, they must say, what I hear you saying is, okay? And then they have to say essentially in their own words, or sometimes they can literally repeat what the other person's saying, is such and such. And the other person's job is to, say, yes, that's exactly what I said, or no, that's not really what I said, because, invariably the person hearing is not going to be hearing completely accurately. And what you're trying to do is to get each person to accurately hear what the other person is saying. And so they cannot, the person listening cannot interrupt. They cannot ask questions. They simply have to listen. And when you do that, back and forth a few times, which is really just kind of an introductory exercise to marital therapy, you begin to get a sense of how disconnected their ability to listen to each other really is, because sometimes, the person speaking has to go back through 3 or 4 iterations of what they said before the other person can accurately state what they heard. So that's just a little trick you might think about when you're talking, when you're just talking with your friends, as you were talking about before. Let them make a statement and then simply say, so before you say anything or think about replying, as you were putting it, think about saying, so what I hear you saying is, and you do this with Susan all the time. You do it perhaps without even knowing it, but the idea is to do it in a very focused, way. What I hear you saying is, and then you either literally repeat back their words, or you paraphrase, being as accurate as you possibly can to what they heard, and then it gives the other person the opportunity.
I have a question. If you literally repeat their words, isn't that sort of cheating? I mean, because you are just then being a stenographer. Like, here's what you said. I heard it. Don't you have to like?
Well, it may be.
You're making it your own. You're taking it in.
Right. I get your point about that, but I guess where it gets a little bit beyond, the our conversation here today. Sometimes people are so disconnected, couples meaning specifically, that what you want them to do as a therapist is just as a beginning step. If you can take a literal kind of recitation of what the other person said, you'll take that as a starting point, because sometimes
I get it.
That's the best they can do. And then you kind of move on from there. So anyway,
I bet that that exercise would really be very hard for a lot of people.
It's not only very hard, but it's one of the things, frankly, that has made me disinclined to do much marital therapy over the last few years, because it is, it gets deep. And like I said earlier, when you observe it actually happening, and you realize how disconnected many couples are from even the most basic understanding of each other. And these are people that have been married for, God knows what, 10, 20, 30 years. So you might expect it to be a little bit better than that. But then again, if it was better than that, they probably wouldn't be coming to therapy in the first place. Right. So.
Wow. I can't imagine.
Anyway.
I can't imagine doing that I went to couples therapy once. I did.
Uh-huh.
I was married at the time, and
sure.
the pronouncement from the therapist was, you guys aren't really married. You're like roommates.
Sure. Well,
and I think that was right.
Well, I have said from time to time, because I would generally give couples a few sessions, and then if it gets to the point where it is so obvious that they can't even do some of these very basic things, I will simply say to them, I'm not sure what you need, but frankly, you need something other than therapy, because if you can't demonstrate that basic skill, there's nowhere else to go. I mean, God knows you're not going to be able to deal with somebody had an affair or somebody has clinical depression or whatever it is. That really would be the more meat of the process, so to speak. And sometimes people just don't have the capacity to do it. And therefore, I'll either say, maybe you want to just give this a try with another therapist. Maybe I'm just really missing something that I can't really help you with here. Or I just say, maybe think about these 2 or 3 sessions that we've had and then come back in 6 months if you're still married and try it again.
You know what? I mean, tell me this, though. This is interesting to me. Generally, if a couple comes in for therapy, one of the people in the couple is the driver of that, and the other is often a very reluctant participant. Yes?
100%. And you may not be surprised. Guess who that person is?
The reluctant one? I think that'd be the guy, right?
Yeah,
the man.
That would. Yeah. It would be the wife who's driving the therapy.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And the one exception to that sometimes happens, very rarely, is that the guy, the husband, will say, just for purposes, will say something like, I'm calling for me and my wife. We want therapy because she has told me that, if I don't do something, it's the end or whatever. Yeah. So in a sense, she's still driving the therapy, but occasionally the husband will actually make the call to set up the appointment because he's the one that is now by his perception, at least initially, has the most to lose if he doesn't do something, right? But
Right.
but you're right. That is rare.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening to you and having a conversation. Thank you.
Well, it's delightful as always. You take care.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Wow. Okay, we got another caller. Man, you guys are coming in today. I love it. Hello.
Good morning. This isn't the reason why I call. This isn't the I'm sorry. I listened to you. No, this isn't the reason why I called, but the previous caller, I've done that before, and it's very, very effective. And
I bet. I bet.
I mean, you just don't do it with your spouse or your significant other. I try to apply it to everything because I know I'm guilty of it. Men are really bad at that type of thing. They want to react. They want to respond. It's just what they want to argue.
Right.
And I've seen a lot. I've told you this a lot. I'm in the construction industry, and I see a lot of mansplaining going on, and so even in meetings, I will repeat something that somebody said just to let them know I heard what they said, and if I'm not saying it correctly, they can correct me if I misunderstood what they said. And oftentimes what they say is really ridiculous, and then all of a sudden it's like, did I? And then they'll correct me because that's not what they meant, but they're kind of embarrassed because they said something ridiculous, But the reason I called was you were talking about that Trump guy, talking about men crying and all this other stuff. And when I first got into this business almost 40 years ago, I had a boss, and he really helped me learn my trade, but he was a knuckle dragger. I mean, it was like his knuckles dragged me around when he walked. I mean, he was just a Neanderthal. And he used this phrase all the time. Back when men were men and women were glad of it.
That's why the Barbie movie is so popular. I have to tell you. That's it. Yeah.
It's like that's a world a lot of these guys are, a lot of us are.
I know.
Grew up in and we're comfortable with. I mean,
yes, of course.
When you talk to millennials and they say, why, because I lapsed back into that, I was raised in the 1960s. I remember Sean Connery being interviewed in, I don't know, one of the male magazines and saying, well, sometimes, it's okay to give your woman a backhand across the face because you got to sit them straight. And that was acceptable. He said that. And we watched John Wayne spank Maureen O'Hara, on television. And it's like, guys, I mean, we grew up in that, and it's hopefully that's fading out, but still there's all this abuse going on. But when men were men and women were glad of it.
Women were glad of it. Oh God, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, you.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, my. Wow. Here's some commentary from Commentary Magazine. Strange. And it's why Trump is crushing DeSantis. The simple, if absurd reality is that what people love about Trump is precisely what most Americans find repulsive. But there it is. That is it. And that's where the ability to understand is so, I was going to say difficult, but I'm impossible. Impossible is really the word. Because if the very things that make you literally cringe and recoil from are the very things that his base loves and will be with him till their dying days. I don't see how you so that the poll that was out where Trump the question that was asked in the poll is which candidate would you be most likely to vote for in the Republican primary? And Trump has 54% of the vote. And all of those others together, DeSantis is the only one who polls more than 3%. He polls 17%. He's 30, God knows what points behind Trump. There's no horse race here, unless I don't know. Although, given the fact that the first primary is 6 months away, yes, things can happen. But the thing is when you look at the base, they are unmovable. The unmovable part of the Republican vote constitutes almost 40% of their voters. These are people who don't support Trump in spite of this or that. They support him because they don't think he has any flaws. They think he's. Listen to this. Not a single one of the respondents in this poll is getting so much attention. Not a single one of the respondents who are clearly in Trump's pocket. 0% said that he had committed any serious federal crimes. They said, no, he didn't commit any crimes. And 90% of them said the party needs to stand behind him no matter what. And the thing is, that base is why you don't see much courage with others in the party. Even though there's a big hunk of people out there that you would think could, I don't know. It's just amazing. When you see the breakdowns of the demographics of it, Jesus, wow, God. It's a bit unsettling. Anyway, the rest of that quote I was doing about the reason why the base loves him is precisely why the rest of us find him like just repulsive. And then he went on to sort of define that. The pomposity, the boundless egomania, the tacky marketeering, the tabloid outrage, the fearless lying, the sincere disdain for anything traditional, the simpleness of his spite. And then you end up with the fact that that base is not unlike, that is a base that is created by American entertainment, by wrestling, professional wrestling. I kid you not. Professional wrestling and reality television, both of which Trump comes from, and how he has styled himself after a professional wrestler. He knows exactly what the crowd wants. And I guess what's so scary about that reality is that when the founding fathers dreamed up this experiment in democracy, they feared that the populace might not be up to the task of being serious, reflective, sober. That was a fear. And one of the ways they wanted to ensure that you had the serious and sober ones, of course, they only let white men with money initially take part. Oh, God. So I don't know. It does make whole unmasking of such a huge percentage of our electorate as an unserious bunch of spiteful buffoons does make you wonder if democracy can work, especially in an age of disinformation and misinformation and division. And on that happy note, I see our time has come to an end. So I'll talk at you tomorrow. And it reminds me of one of the lines from the movie Barbie is Ken says to Barbie, "Come on," he has his guitar. He says, "Come on, I'll sing at you." And that gets a big laugh from the ladies. And I didn't know. I just said, "I'll talk at you." But there was a wink that you couldn't see. Okay? Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.